time now for the week that was, where we take a look at the top stories that made headlines across the globe this week. And the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, or the NNPC, has transited fully into a commercial company and will now be known as the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. The unveiling of the company's new logo by Nigerian President and Minister of Petroleum took place at the State Banquet Hall in Abuja. Onyi Sunday reports.
No shaking, no fear, 'cause you've got energy for today, energy for tomorrow, bigger than yesterday.
With the harmonization of its new tagline, the ceremony to usher in Nigeria's latest oil company begins. A fulfillment of one of the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act signed on August 2021 after 2 decades.
While the country was waiting for the PIA, Nigeria's oil and gas industry lost about $50 billion worth of investment. In fact, between 2015 and 2019, KPMG states that only 4% of the $70 billion investment inflows into Africa's oil and gas industry came to Nigeria, even though the country is the continent's biggest producer with the largest reserves. We are setting all these woes behind us, and a clear path for the survival and growth of our petroleum industry is now before us.
Present at the launch of this historic achievement is Nigeria's President and Minister of Petroleum Resources, under whose administration the bill that paved the way for the privatization of the NNPC was signed.
By chance of history, I was privileged to lead the creation of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation on the 1st of July, 1977. 44 years later, I was again privileged to sign the Petroleum Industry Act in 2021. Coincidentally, on the 1st of July, 2022, I authorized transfer of assets from the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation to its successor company, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, and steered the implementation leading to the unveiling of Africa's largest national oil company today.
That said, the new logo is unveiled.
The egg has finally cracked. Energy for today, energy for tomorrow.
With the latest development, NNPC Limited will operate as a commercial, independent and profit-driven Nigerian oil company at par with its peers around the world. Its shareholders are over 200 million Nigerians it served as a government-run corporation.
This indeed is a new day, a new hope and a new opportunity to upscale our relevance in the global energy community as Africa's largest energy company, endowed with the best human resources one can find anywhere in the industry. NNPC Limited is positioned to lead Africa's gradual transition to new energy by deepening natural gas production to create low-carbon alternatives and positively change the story of energy poverty at home and around the world. Your Excellency, Mr. President, we have taken a strategic initiative to achieve our mandate of ensuring energy security for our country by rolling out a comprehensive expansion plan to grow our fuel retail presence from the 547 to over 1,500 outlets within the next 6 months. Our drive for organizational sustainability is hinged on our renewed commitment to partnerships that deliver sustainable value to all with integrity.
While the positive energy for today and tomorrow theme reverberates across the room, the rendition by Nigerian international artist Asha somewhat brings to the fore the challenges bedeviling the sector.
One day the river will overflow, and there'll be nowhere for us to go, and we will run, wishing we had put out the fire. Oh, there is fire on the mountain.
Challenges that must be addressed to tackle Nigeria's energy crisis and dwindling revenue from oil.
This administration cannot allow the NNPC to continue living in the shadow of its past while being unable to meet present expectations of funding the operations of the Federation accounts, oil production quota, petrol supply and adequacy, or even basic refining capacity. By this move, the government aims at opening the space for private players to be able to venture into the oil and gas industry and make NNPC Limited a global partner of choice.
With the official transitioning into a private entity, the oil company will be regulated in line with the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. The federal government will also seize all forms of funding for projects and sundry purposes like it did in the last 45 years of the NNPC. Only Sunday.
The world is at your feet. Nothing can stop you. Yeah.
Arise News.
Well, a big thank you to Onyi Sunday for that report. Yep. What she's done is to do a great job of breaking down what has actually happened with the NNPC, because to the layman, to anybody, it might not be clear when you hear of a state-run company going and becoming an LLC, thank you. It might not be completely clear what is actually happening, because the government is still, I mean, it won't be privy to government funding, but the government is still among the shareholders, still, they're still the owners of the company. So yes, there's a difference. Of course, there's a different name, there's a different logo, and they're hoping there'll be different outcomes, because clearly the NNPC, how it was before, wasn't functioning to the best of its capability, and it's hoping that with this transition, perhaps this new company can be on par with the likes of Saudi Aramco. Well, that's what the hope is.
I think that's the dream, you know, and it looks good on paper. Absolutely. You know, it was a beautiful ceremony. If we remove the, I don't know, maybe the metaphor of Asha's performance, fire on the mountain, you know, on a day like that, you know, I think that it was a beautiful, you know, occasion, well packaged. The theme song by Daria Talade, you know, speaks to the heart of it. Energy today, energy for tomorrow. Yes. It's brilliant. I mean, again, this ties back neatly to the Petroleum, you know, Industry Act, you know, that was signed. I think that's a good legacy, without a doubt, for President Muhammadu Buhari, and it makes him look good. 40-something years ago, it was Buhari himself that, you know, gave birth, if you like, to NNPC as we come to know it today. And then 40-something down the line, 40-something years down the line, is now the one, you know, transitioning the NNPC from a parastatal, if you like, to a limited liability, to a commercial entity. I think that's the key word. You are right, a few things are still not very clear to an average Nigerian. An average Nigerian is the owner of the company, by the way, federal government and, you know, every Nigerian. But then what does it mean? Is it an old wine, you know, in a new bottle? Or what are the expectations? Yes. It will make profit. What does that mean to you and I? You know, other than if you say that energy for today, energy for tomorrow, people just want to have a better understanding and enjoyment of that God-given product, you know, that we have in Nigeria. So when you're comparing with Aramco, comparing with the ones in Angola, in Brazil, you know, don't make it just about profit. Make it also about efficiency. So that first and foremost, and Nigerians who are now the shareholders, who are the owners of the company, you know, can actually enjoy. Things are still a bit easy, and we heard it from, you know, even the MD of NNPC himself, that it would take like between 3 to 4 years to begin to feel the impact and begin to see that, yes, it can actually be profitable. You recall that in 2021, NNPC actually declared, you know, curiously, declared some profit. Yes. That was good. Maybe that was to prepare and wet the ground, you know, for this. But again, we just have to accept that on face value, this is good. and hope that it won't be just any other company. I listened to Governor Fahimi, the chairman of the Governors Forum, saying that things are still not very clear. I listened to the same sentiment from Atiku Abubakar, the opposition's presidential candidate, saying that, well, we're just reading about it, we're just knowing about it. It's good that you privatize, just like, comparing it to the NLNG. I think that's the sense. So Nigerians will just have to wait with the hope that this will not turn out as one of those things. And I think NLNG will be a good example for NNPC to begin to roll and roll energetically, since this is all about energy.
Energy.
All right.
As they put it.
Okay, so we proceed. The ruling All Progressives Congress has officially presented Kashim Shatima as running mate to Bola Tinubu, its presidential candidate in the 2023 general election. Shatima was unveiled on Wednesday in Abuja. Arise News has a report.
That was the moment the chairman of the All Progressives Congress presented the former Borno State governor, now the vice presidential candidate of the party for the 2023 elections. The event kicked off in earnest with a welcome address by the National Secretary of the party, Senator Yola Omishore. Then it was the turn of the chairman of the APC Progressives Governors Forum, Atiku Bagudu, who described Kashim Shatima as the finest. Kashima is competent, committed, a bridge builder, does not like US people around him, and is passionate about reading. These are not my words, but the words of the chairman of the Governors Forum and governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi. Then came the high point of the occasion, the presentation to the public of Shatima by the chairman of the party, Senator Abdullahi Adamu.
As national chairman of our great party, APC, it is both my honor and duty to unveil this distinguished son of our dear country, the APC vice presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election is distinguished Senator Kashim Shatima. This is our vice presidential.
In his acceptance speech, Shatima said he's standing here today because of those who crawled so that some of us could walk, and those who walked for others to run.
About 30 years ago, Nigerians from both sides of the Niger came together to market the ideals of a ticket like ours. They overlooked the pedestrian attempts to politicize the religious affiliations of the presidential candidate and running mate, and yielded to the message of hope and the manifesto of prosperity promised them. The MKO Abiola and Babagana Kingibe ticket defied the stereotype of Nigerians as hopelessly sectional and incapable of prioritizing reason over sentiments. This reincarnation of the 30-year-old hope that produced the late MKO Abiola and Babagana Kingibe came at a time the country is being pushed to the edge of anarchy by conflict entrepreneurs in Gaudi Suits and Babangiga, with the overwhelming endorsement of Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the APC presidential primaries by aspirants from the very groups predicted to reject him, and his subsequent election by delegates from the same groups.
The flag bearer of the party, Tinubu, while presenting Shatima, his running mate, said that the veil has been removed for the next vice president of Nigeria, Kashim Shatima, to emerge.
Once we are one, we can bring Nigeria to the clay and a high heel of Africa. I am just determined with this man.
Despite the opposition to his candidacy, the APC presidential candidate doubled down on Shatima, with a public presentation of the APC vice presidential candidate, Kashim Shatima. The race to choose who succeeds President Muhammadu Buhari has started in earnest. Ndi Amugo. Arise News.
Well, Femi, I mean, this issue is not going to go away, in a long while. This all-Muslim ticket issue, the unfortunate pedestal where we found ourselves of bringing religion, into national politics, into governance. I think that was the reason why it was delayed. It ought to have been unveiled since last week, but they had to postpone it. So I get it that it's a big issue, but then the candidate of the party and the party itself, is saying that this is, the direction that we want to take, for in our wisdom, for the reasons best known to us. And I think that Nigerians over time will just have to live with it and settle with that reality, because they are consistently using what happened 29 years ago. Abiola and Babagana Kingibe, a Muslim ticket, and the one, so Kashim Shatima, like Babagana Kingibe, is also from Borno.
Yes.
Although Abiola was from Ogun State and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is from Lagos State, but then is looking almost like what happened 29 years ago. It will be 30 years by next year. Yes. History repeating itself.
But hopefully not all the way.
Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely. Let's hope so. But I think what's colored that occasion badly, is the needless issue of rent a bishop. Rent a bishop scenario that totally eroded the integrity of that occasion.
Yes.
I read what Mr. Bayo Ononuga, the spokesperson for the Asiwaju campaign, said that no bishop was rented. They were upcoming bishops who might not be known, but then they will blossom. They will blossom, in the faith. I take that explanation.
Okay.
But then it begs the question: if it was only one person that was a bishop who ought not to be there, a bishop in quotes,
yes,
then the integrity of that event, will have been affected,
yes,
totally. It won't matter that, yes, there were, people, who are not in the class of the Christian Association of Nigerian recognized
right,
bishops, and then put in a woman. But then it just didn't look right. That, you will find bishops on Okada, you find what looked apparently like money sharing in the car park, and all the, cassock not being ironed, people not knowing how to wear this thing, and the candor and the conduct of those who are supposed to be bishops, that was not. I do not always like to quickly blame the leaders. Because, frankly speaking, you may not know. Maybe they were not even aware.
Yep.
Except for the fact that Kashim Shatima himself acknowledged 30 bishops. How did he know that some 30 bishops were coming? Or there were 30 that was there? It looks like maybe he was aware. But ordinarily, you think that some overzealous supporters, in order to show that this is not an anti-Christian agenda,
yes,
decided to do something. But it turned out badly.
It fell flat. If that was the intention, it fell flat. And as you said, integrity and standards, they mean a lot. That's why they have importance.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think that at this point, I don't think, as you said in the early part of your discussion there, that the general electorate have moved beyond this Muslim ticket. I still think it ruffles a lot of people still the wrong way, especially if you are a person who believes in equal and adequate representation. Yeah. It might be a bit too much to have two members of the same religion, regardless of the religion. I think that is important too.
Yeah,
I don't think that the vast majority of people who have an issue with this ticket have an issue because of the denomination of religion, but because both candidates are from one religion.
From the same faith.
But like we were saying yesterday, it seems to be more a situation of strategy as opposed to representation specifically. So again, when it comes to this level of politics, it's almost... It is out of the general public's control. This is internal party politics here. And once it releases out into to society, then you have the opportunity and the power to show your support or your dismay. Nobody is forcing you to pick these candidates. Right. But it is valid too that if you are a card-carrying member of a political party and you had certain expectations, you're also within your right to express your disappointment. Yeah. Will you be so disappointed that you don't back the party that you say you support? Well, the polls will show us eventually. But I do think the APC have a very big fight ahead of them in terms of holding on to the presidency.
They will have
the governors
to fight
have a huge governors have a huge responsibility to not only hold on to the states, but also deliver those states within this presidential election to ensure that their party's candidate wins. It's going to be difficult whichever way it swings for everybody.
Absolutely. Given what happened, just last week in Osun State, so we should expect that. The party can't just afford to take things for granted. Absolutely. But again, it is the party's decision and the polls will show.
All righty. Well, like you already know, the cost of servicing Nigeria's debt has surpassed the federal government's retained revenue by 310 billion naira in the first 4 months of 2022. According to a document released by the federal government, its total revenue for the period was 1.63 trillion, while debt service gulped 1.94 trillion. Now, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, said urgent action is required to address revenue underperformance and expenditure efficiency at national and sub-national levels. Let's take a listen.
We have opened up our books to enable citizens to have information to hold government to account. That's the purpose of the effort we have been doing to be transparent in our budget. If you look at the budget office or any budget you are looking for, you see the details. The Treasury portal of the Accountant General has the details of the expenditure. It is for citizens to use that information to ask informed questions so that there is a push for improvement. So
oftentimes I hear that we talk about borrowing. Is borrowing a bad thing? No, it's not. It depends on what you are borrowing for. If you are borrowing for consumption, then it is bad. But if you are borrowing for production, it is good.
You can see that the revenue to GDP ratio of Nigeria is among the lowest in the world, and we keep highlighting this even in a period of recession. So data from the World Bank show that in 2020, out of about 196 countries covered in the IMF, in the World Bank's economic outlook, Nigeria was 194 in terms of revenue to GDP. So something is wrong. We can't keep saying, size of budget one is low, debt service to revenue is high. Debt stock to GDP of those countries are high, but debt service for those countries are low because they have revenues. And I think revenues are the collective responsibility of Nigeria. We can't stop talking about revenues. What is the government doing? But I think individually we all have responsibilities for revenue.
The numbers are astounding. But then it's not a surprise. We've been talking about debt servicing in Nigeria for actual years. And the numbers, again, they are staggering. They are shameful almost, but they're not a surprise. And I think that the Minister for Finance has had quite a tough time. I can't imagine that it's an easy job.
You can't envy her
absolutely couldn't imagine anybody envying Minister Ahmed because of the job that she's had to do when it comes to sorting out Nigeria's financial position. But it is quite worrisome.
It is.
No matter how unmoved we are by the fact that Nigeria has a debt servicing issue, it just... At this point, it's beyond rhetoric, it's beyond discussion, it's beyond criticism. It's about, is this going to change or not? And for the time being, it looks like the answer is no, it's not going to change for quite a while, and that is a shame.
It looks like we know the answer already.
We do.
How much worse can it get? I think that will be the fear, of most Nigerians. If at first quarter of 2022, we're dealing with 310 billion, in excess of revenue. If that trend continues, it means that by the end of the year, we'll be talking of clearly more than $1 trillion, much more than the revenues that we are taking in.
Right.
I think you're being charitable in saying that it's almost shameful. It is shameful. And because we are talking of less than 24 years after the return of democracy, the first 8 years of which what was paramount on our lips at that time was the fact that we were even, doing away with our debts, debt, cancellation, etc. Nobody was talking about the fact that we would be, at this point, the borrowing to
Just
even to pay our debts, you know, because that's the literal translation to many Nigerians. Because if what you're making, if your revenue isn't sufficient to pay back the debt, it means that you now have to borrow more to clear what you already, you know, it is sad, and I do not think that the explanation that the finance minister and Clemegba, you know, the other minister of state for what's his ministry now, you know, I don't think that it resonates. You know, yes, everybody knows the merit and the demerits of borrowing. But then the figures,
past that point.
Absolutely, the figures that you're trying to justify. In any case, which production are you borrowing for?
Yes.
You're borrowing to pay salaries. You're borrowing to pay back, you know, debt. It's not looking good. Minister admits that this is not tidy. This is not looking good. So what do we need to do? How many months remaining for Buhari? Which is the point that people are saying that no, we should pity whoever takes over. You know,
Because
apart from the
that's
fact that you will answer to be the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you've got a lot of job that you have to deal with. And there will be, at a time, a limit to how much more you can borrow. Venezuela on my mind, Sri Lanka on my mind. Nigeria, be careful. Absolutely. Nigeria, be careful. All right, I will proceed in. Yes, Super Falcon striker Azizat Oshoala has been crowned 2022 CAF Women's Player of the Year. The 27-year-old was announced the winner of the Gong in the Gala held in Rabat, Morocco on Thursday. With this win, Oshoala became the first player in history to win 5 African Player of the Year awards. She was adjudged the best African female footballer in 2014, 2016, 2017, and 2019. The 2021-22 campaign can be said to be Oshoala's best yet, as she played a pivotal role in a Spanish-sized treble charge, the Spanish Women's Super Cup, Copa de la Reina, and the Primera Division. In the male category, Sadio Mane won the 2022 CAF Player of the Year award. The Senegal forward claimed the CAF African Player of the Year award for the second time. I mean, congratulations.
Yes, a huge congratulations to them.
To our own Azizat.
That's amazing.
Lagos girl, you know, congratulations.
Well done. Very
we
lost proud of her.
AFCON, what that they call AFCON?
Yes.
Unfortunately, we lost yesterday, but Oshoala, congratulations.
Congratulations to you.